All right, welcome everyone to the PAGAP Coffee Talk. We're so glad to see so many familiar faces and catch up with everyone on how everything's been going recruitment-wise and what the future holds for graduate recruitment. So think of this as, a very casual, informal way of sharing what's going on in your life. We'll start off with a bunch of different topics, introductions, so we get to know each other a little bit better. And then really, the pathway forward is yours to choose. We'll have some topics just in our back pocket, and we'll go from there. So my name is Angelo. I'm the membership chair of PAGAP. I work at Lehigh University for the College of Engineering. I've been in GEM for about 5 years now, and yeah, loving every minute of it. We also have Kate here who's co-hosting with me.
Everyone, I'm Kate Fuller. I am the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions at Bryn Mawr College, and newly Professional Development Chair for PAGAP. So I'm excited to see all of you. And maybe what I'll do is I will popcorn over to Betsy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Betsy McLean. I currently serve as the Executive Director for Enrollment Management, specifically for degree completion and grad programs at Newman University. And I am the current secretary for PAGAP. And I've been in enrollment management, believe it or not, for 14 years and half of that for GEM. And I am going to popcorn to Chad.
No, I knew you were coming to me, Betsy. Good morning, Chad Baker. I am the Director of Graduate Recruitment at Millersville University. I have been in higher ed for 20 some years now, and in GEM for about 10. And I'm currently the the communications marketing chair for PAGAP. So I'm going to pop it over to Nikki.
Good morning, everybody. Nikki Popolarchuk from Penn West. I previously served on the PAGAP board. Good to see all of you again. I'm in graduate admissions here at Penn West. I'm on the California campus. I'll go over to Ashley.
Sorry, good morning. My name is Ashley Smith. I am new to my role as Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions here at the University of Scranton, and I've been in higher ed for the last 6 years, and I was previously doing undergrad, so kind of shifting my focus a little bit. I'm going to send it to Raina.
Hi, I also work at the University of Scranton. I am the graduate admissions counselor, and I am new to higher ed. I started 7 months ago in this new field, but I'm excited to learn a little bit more about what I can learn from you guys. Sorry, I'll popcorn it to Daniel.
Good morning, everybody. I got my coffee here, ready to go. My name is Dan Sadler. I'm the Director of Graduate Recruitment and Admissions for Duquesne University. I've been in higher education for 20 years, in and out of grad admissions and GEM for probably 15 of those 20 years. Happy to be here. First time caller, long time listener. Heck, I forgot to, Raina. Let's go to Sheila. Good morning, Sheila.
Good morning. It's nice to see everybody. I'm Sheila Gillen. I showed up initially as Kate Fuller because she sent me the link. Kate and I are colleagues at Bryn Mawr College Graduate School of Social Work. I have been in higher ed for 24 years, at Bryn Mawr for 24 years, and part of PAGAP for 24 years. So it's great to see a whole new group of people too. It's higher ed is obviously a very changing, evolving field these days. So it's great to have these kinds of resources for just information sharing and networking. So I am gonna pass it to Juan. Have you gone yet?
I have not. I have not. So thank you.
Okay,
My name is
sure.
Juan Cruz, Director of Graduate Admissions at LaSalle University. I have been in higher ed for 10 years, graduate and professional school admissions the entire time. And so I think we have a newcomer. I will popcorn off to Sean, and I think he's gonna be sort of like, what's going on? We're just introducing ourselves and how much time we've been in GEM.
Hi everyone. I'm Sean Kennedy. I do believe I know most of you. Sorry for my lateness when the VP walks in. You just kind of wait. But I've been at Holy Family for just celebrated 3 years last month. But in GEM, probably 8 or 9 years in different roles, and then in admissions for God, before that. So been around the block, had some experiences, but super excited to see everyone this morning.
And you're also PAGAP president.
I mean, I am.
Yeah.
Wasn't gonna. I'm just so glad everyone else is here and everything's running smoothly. It's great.
And last but not least, Stan.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Stan Kania. I am the Assistant Dean of Admissions and Enrollment at Drexel University College of Medicine. I'm also an assistant professor in the Department of Family and Community Medicine. I've been in GEM for 14 years. All of my career has been in GEM, been involved with PAGAP, previously serving on the PAGAP board, was previously on the NAGAP board. So very happy to be here and see so many familiar faces and some new faces as well. So welcome, everyone.
All right, thanks everyone so much for sharing. That gives us a little bit of background of like who's in the room, what we do. Um, I think it just makes sense to start off with travel, right? So every year we talk about travel, virtual travel, on the ground travel, colleges and universities, grad fairs, career fairs, combination grad career fairs, and everything in between. So just wanted to hear from everyone kind of how things have gone so far. Hopefully things are tailing off and we're gonna, slow down a little bit, enjoy the holidays. But just the general sense of kind of how travel went this year.
I'm
We
happy
could
to
even
kick
start in
things.
Pennsylvania if that's
I'm
easier.
happy to kick things off by saying
Yeah.
that for Duquesne University, travel has been a bit of a letdown for us. We're just, I personally went to Washington and Jefferson, great school just south of us in Pittsburgh, and I talked to 15 students there, not bad. 14 of them were freshmen. So that's, you get that. Our professional programs, on the other hand, still need to go out and travel, and they do well doing that. So, the law school, our PharmD, our new College of Medicine. So they go out and travel, but they're doing that, and it seems to be working well for them. So I think it really depends on programs and so forth, but really it's down to those. And then there's certain schools that we go to just because you have to. I mean, we have relationships with a lot of schools around the area, so we go to those as well. Just curious what everybody else thinks too, because that's my take, and basically following the data for the last 3 years of travel. That's what I've been seeing, but I'm happy to be wrong.
That's what our team is seeing too. It's like the younger and younger group, but also, and this is just crazy to me, that how expensive the fares have been for a very little ROI. So it's been a challenge. And with budgets being cut and all of that, it's like we have to be more selective and targeted on where we want to go.
Yeah, that's the same with me, Betsy. So we've been diving into our data and really looking at where we have a large percentage of our feeder schools, and we've only been really targeting those feeder schools and fairs around those feeder schools because we know that that'll be our biggest ROI. But also, we started this year going to different schools that we hope on planning on developing a pipeline with. So that's been fruitful, more so in the vein of getting conversations started with the right administrators and faculty, not so much talking to students, but that's okay because we know it just gets our foot in the door. So that's been helpful from a strategic standpoint, but I agree with you. Every year we're all like, hey, can you get me 30 more students, but I'm going to cut your budget by 5%. Yay, that sounds awesome. So yeah, I completely echo the sentiments of Becky and Daniel.
I appreciate you sharing that, Stan. I think we don't always think about the different ways that we can connect with schools. Like obviously we could try career centers, but sometimes it's a door to the face. Almost thinking like undergrad recruitment approach. Sometimes you just got to find the right person, the person who sends all the students to the right schools. So I mean, my philosophy is I try to get to school visits as early as I can, shake hands with everyone who's in charge of organizing the events and making sure that, they have my information as well as, the school's information. If it's a one-sheeter, great. You don't want to fill these people up with too many things too, because it could get lost. So what are your guys' thoughts on that approach? Have you been trying to get individual visits with, universities and colleges, and how's that been going?
I think that's at least from my end, it's always been the challenge of, as you mentioned, finding the right person to do it. We've somewhat relied on faculty, or we've asked faculty, do you have colleagues in your field of work that would be that would allow us to join? And sometimes that works, and sometimes, and most of the time, it doesn't. Either because they're hesitant about tapping into the networks that they have, but also that those other schools are sometimes have very similar programs to what we offer.
I think that's similar to what we have found. We have some feeder schools, to Stan's point, like we will obviously do class visits and meet with those schools, but I think we have also noticed that some of the schools that are feeder schools that students have typically gone from, are starting to have similar programs to the ones that we're offering. So there's sometimes a little bit of that balance between promoting the relationship that we have already with the articulation agreements, but then also at the same time understanding that schools are creating their own programs and want their own students to attend. So it's been an interesting kind of development over the past year or so.
So I would say in this group, I'm kind of the outlier over here because I'm specifically niched to medicine. Um, for a recruitment tactic, we rely heavily on individual visits with schools and programs, just because it gets us in front of those students, and it's such a captive audience. Now, I will say, are there times where we go to a school and there's 3 students in the classroom listening to me talk to them? Yes. On the other hand, one of the schools I loved going to is the University of Scranton because they have a robust health professions group that always has a great turnout. I'm talking like 50, 60 students. And I live in the Scranton area. So for me to go 10 minutes up the highway is no big deal. So, you know, for us, that fact that we're able to rely heavily on those individual visits, really helps us a lot in the long run. Because at that point it minimizes the budget money that you're really spending. And a majority of the time too, some of those programs are flexible and they'll just do virtual visits. And so really for us, we relied heavily on that.
Yeah,
I
I
want
just
to
want
ask, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Sorry, Beth. I just wanted to say, like, because I did some of the travel out there as well, and like Stan, just because you mentioned Scranton, like we were there and we were talking to the Career Center. They had a big fair, and we mentioned like your turnout isn't as large as it normally is, right? And so they do schools and actual hiring companies and things like that. And we talked to her, and she said even the companies are making budget cuts to their travel, right? And so we actually talked to her, and because I feel like if you get to the right people, like a career center, right, they plan these events. We talked to them about like, while you're not competing with the other universities in your area, could you collaborate and schedule? Like we were talking to them about Scranton and Wilkes. If you plan them on the same day, you could have a group of people map out their whole day. It maximizes everyone's budget because you're hitting 2 of it. Like well, you know what I mean? Like just in general. So we did talk to that person about like if there's a consortium of like the counselors or career centers that kind of talk to each other, like, is that an opportunity? Because it's so refreshing when you walk into these fairs and see all of your faces, right? You would know I picked the right fair, or like we're doing the right thing, or like we're trending with every other school, but then the students aren't coming. So like how can you also maximize kind of that potential and do that? So we did put some of that word out there. So I don't know if even that's an initiative like we want to think about. Like it was something in the back of my mind that I wanted to throw out here as well.
Yeah, I think that collecting feedback and seriously, looking at the feedback is helpful. Not every event has a feedback form, or sometimes, again, the feedback forms are just collected, but there's no action for next steps. So, at least for me, like I feel like if a fair has been declining for me personally, or maybe I feel like we should be doing a lot better, I usually ask for an individual visit or a tabling opportunity. And there's also different types of opportunities, right? Like you could do an info session with pizza versus like a table in their cafeteria. And sometimes you'll get more people to walk by, which is just brand awareness, but we really want to connect with students on a deeper level, right? So yeah, thanks for sharing some of that feedback, guys. And then I do want to ask about virtual visits, and if you guys are still attending virtual visits, what are those looking like compared to last year at this time? What are your sense on that?
Angela, that was going to actually be my question. So we are doing some virtual fairs, but they're like horrible. And we question every time we do it. So we're probably going to cut it even more. If they're free, like great, we're not wasting any money on it, but it's low commitment. And not only the fairs, but we also do virtual like webinar program specific webinars as well. And the show rates are just not the greatest. Um, but also in-person event show rates aren't the greatest either. So like there's a lack of commitment coming from this group of students looking at grad school, at least from what we see. And does anybody have any ideas on how to combat that? Because I do want to say the quality of students is better, even if the quantity is less, but like any ideas on how we can say like, if you RSVP, please show up. Please.
We could promise fee waivers, right, if we have those available, but again, with the budgets and everything, I've actually been told to give out less fee waivers. And we actually have a free application week this week, trying to collect everyone in the same place, the first week of November, and then we're gonna try another one the first week of December. We did get a ton of applications last year. Honestly, like a quarter of all of our applications came through this free week. So that could be another way to entice folks to attend events, but we don't promote it as loudly because we don't want every single person applying for free, but we want the people that we've interacted with, the people we've been emailing, to really be part of that and reap that reward. So I'll just put that out there too.
So one thing we've done starting last year was because we had turnover in our office, we recently restarted our virtual admissions series. So here at Drexel, we call it, Future Doc Talks. And each month it's labeled as a recruitment session, but we brand it and we market it and we have the session centered around a topic that is of great importance to our prospective students. So maybe it's student support, career advising, financial aid, financial planning for graduate school, a student panel. And then in the back end, we also talk about admissions and promote the program, but we kind of do that more so on the back end. We have it more as just like a general session targeted around a specific topic, because the way I think of it is, if we're out there and we're educating prospective graduate students about a certain topic, that's first and foremost what I want to do. I just want them to be informed consumers, right? In the back end, I promote my program by saying, here's in general what you should think about for financial planning. But here at Drexel College of Medicine, for example, we have a financial planner on staff just for our medical students, et cetera, et cetera. So it ties in the services that we have within our program for our students. So at the same time, it's marketing our program, but also informing them about just a broader topic. And we've seen an increase from last year to this year in event registrations, but also event attendance. And looking at the data so far, we've also seen a larger number of those attendees, A, registering for and attending multiple sessions, but B, they're also more likely to be in our pipeline of actually submitting an application and going through the process. So far that data has been very promising, and I like that model. I've done it here at another school. We did it like a lunch and learn for like professional students who were going to get their MBA. So there's a lot of different ways you can think about it and brand it. So for us, we've seen a lot of success with that.
Can I ask what the communication looks like to those prospective students? Because coming into this role, I'm being a little bit new and seeing from like a different side of things. Are you finding that students are being overwhelmed with like information overload and that they're just completely swiping past all of the like the communication, or have you guys found specific ways that you feel is best targeting them, or maybe not targeting them too much so that they're like, okay, this is just enough?
Social media has been my BFF. A lot of the students that are coming, when we ask them, how did you find out about us? One of the common responses is social media ads that they're seeing, but then also visiting our website. In my previous role in another institution, what we would do is we would send an email to them through like our CRM and say, hey, we're inviting you specifically to this great series. It's pop on, it's a lunch and learn. Bring your lunch, learn about something cool while you're on your lunch break, and also learn about the great programs we have at XYZ institution, right? So for me, historically, that social media push has been a really big influencer for attendees. And then I always send an email to them personally, like a day before. That's like, hey, remember me? Yeah, you signed up for my cool event. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. So that just reinforms them that, oh, yeah, I did sign up for this thing. And then they're going to join. So that's kind of the tactic I take.
Stan, does your office do that, or do you have a student who, like a grad student, who kind of oversees that from like a student point of view?
So I oversee it in conjunction with our marketing office. So I work with our marketing office in getting um, the the information to them for them to do the marketing pushes on all of our social channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And then when it comes time to like emailing the registrants, I do all of that myself. So I take care of all of that on my side of the house.
Just want to throw something out there. This is a challenge that we have faced for the past couple of years. We will get a good response in terms of people registering to attend events. And then our show rate is like 50%. And people don't let us know they're not coming. We send a whole sequence, as Ashley was saying, we have a comms plan. So we will send a sequence of emails, and starting with the invite to a reminder to the don't forget you registered. And then people are just like, they just don't show up. Oh yeah, the flake rate,
Very
yes.
funny, Chad.
Well, I mean, if that's consistent, that certainly makes me feel better, but
I know.
so frustrating. Just send us an email and say, sorry, can't make it. We prepare for a certain number. Now, what's really sad is we prepare for 50% of that number. We're like, okay, great. We have 50 people registered. Let's go with 25. And then we're plus or minus 1 or 2.
I feel like 50% has become like the standard. Like if you're at 50%, that's like a good show rate. Like we saw
Okay, good.
50%, I'm like, wow, this is excellent compared to the last 4 years, right? And so
Okay.
that is hard. Do you send a text reminder at all? Because I know that's been helpful for events as like, hey, and I not like tomorrow, like, hey, see you in like a couple hours.
Do we, Kate?
Sometimes we do, but I think with regard to that, to Betsy's point, we could probably be more consistent about doing it. So it's something we can look into to do more consistently. Yeah.
And there's just a ghosting culture. Like ghosting
It
is
is.
back in the day, we would never ghost an admissions professional or even in
Wow.
interviews, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, highly selective programs even. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, it's just like, and I don't know if it's like malicious or like some of these students, prospective students, don't understand the concept, or maybe they're fearful, like anxiety of like telling someone no. I don't know, but it's a big topic. Like, Stan, as you're talking about like doing hot topics, like in my head, I'm like, maybe we need to talk about like how to tell someone no. Like if you're not interested, like that's okay. Just tell me so we don't focus on you, So
Yeah, we do. We use Slate for our communication plan. So when we have these info sessions, we set up the whole thing to where they get the reminders. We have and work with faculty to have program specific info sessions on the calendar so students can pick from those. They get plenty of correspondence. We've seen about the 50% rate too. So again, we're always happy with that. And going back to the just say no, it is I just want to message people sometimes. It's like, listen, I really don't care if you're coming or not at this point, but I'm tasked with reaching out to you. So just answer me. It's kind of like how can we do that nicely, but also like you're not just tell me, right, Betsy? It's frustrating. So I'd be interested in a topic like that too, how to communicate and let them know we're okay with no.
Well, it's not always that, they might not want the information, but they could be in class. They're assuming there's a recording of a meeting, or maybe they think that's an RFI, right? And they want more information, but they just can't make that specific meeting. So, I would, consider everyone to think about different approaches to that problem. Like for us, like we have our ambassadors reach out also to the students who didn't attend and say, hey, I know you couldn't make this event. Do you want to schedule a one-on-one meeting with me? And sometimes students feel the pressure of a group meeting, right? Like to keep their camera on and you know how these things go. Like it's just all blank Zoom screens in our virtual information sessions. But if a student was one-on-one, sometimes they feel more comfortable. Peer-to-peer, they feel more trusting. They're able to, let down their wall, their mask, etc. So are you guys also do you have ambassador teams and how are you utilizing ambassadors? I want to shift into that.
We use them a lot. And when I mean a lot, we have like 100+ ambassadors for our program. We utilize them even in like, and I was about to put this in the chat, but our ambassadors, they actually host their own admissions sessions too, with our support. So again, we have marketing help send out the information for the events. We on our end collect the registrations and whatnot and manage that. But our ambassadors put on their own programming about life as a Drexel student, things I wish I knew before I came to Drexel. What's it like in a day of a life of a student? They'll have their own office hours where student applicants can drop in and just say, hey, I just got a question, and have that touch point. And we find that the applicants really like that because I think everyone would agree on this call that when they talk to us, they just think we're a talking head, right? They want to hear from the students, right? So the more ways that we can engage our current students in the process, we've seen better interactions with our students. So like all of my virtual programs, I always have at least 1 or 2 students with me to give their take on it. And that's another highlight that gets people to come there. They're going to talk to current students as well. But we have our ambassadors help us with that. We have them help us with campus tours. We also have a student group on campus called Application First Aid, where they can provide mentorship and guidance to undergrads who are looking to apply to medical school in the future. So I think having a student group like that or a group of ambassadors that can say, hey, we're kind of here to provide a little bit of insight, I think really goes a long way because they're talking to them at their level. It's more of that peer-to-peer level, right? So we found that that was very, very useful.
Others with ambassador programs, ambassadors paid, unpaid.
I actually had more of a question for Stan because that sounds like an incredibly robust ambassador program. Not at this particular institution, but we've had unpaid ambassadors. It was all volunteer based. But everything that you mentioned with holding their own sessions and setting up appointments with students, sometimes there's a little bit of hesitancy on my part of like, are they ready to have that sort of conversation? And some, as you know, as I'm sure all y'all know, some ambassadors are very adept at actually communicating the great aspects of the program, and some and some students, I'm a little bit more like, I'm not sure if that's the best representation of the programs that we're trying to recruit for. So are they do you train them? Is there like a pretty robust
Oh yeah,
application process?
they go through a robust training process. And you know, we go over with them everything from soup to nuts, what are things, that you can talk about, what are things that you should avoid. Um, you know, if you have things that maybe you're not sure of, just always feel free to say, I don't know, I'll find out, or kick it to the admissions office, right? So, but we do have a robust training program for the ambassadors before we uh, let them loose, so to speak. But we do really make sure. And then what we do is, as part of their orientation, we give them opportunities to even shadow another ambassador during one of the sessions so they can kind of get a feel as to what's it really like. What is the vibe like, right? So they kind of have an idea of what an actual session is like before they jump into it themselves, right? On their own, flying solo, so to speak. So we do that robust training. We have that constant support for them throughout this ambassador program. So it's very robust, very active.
I just have a question regarding that, just because definitely I agree with people want to talk to current students, and we have some campus-based programs. Is anyone finding this success with like the online student? Because I will say, like, it could be a university problem, but like online students are definitely in their own world. They're not necessarily always feeling super connected to campus and or wanting to necessarily share that experience because there's obviously, other parameters there. So I'm just wondering if anyone has navigated the online kind of experience. We've always had students like join like the virtual sessions and other things like because we want to hear them talk, and so do the students. Like we had an open house and there was a line to talk to the students and no one else. You know what I mean? So it's definitely, we know that's the purpose of it. I'm just wondering if anyone has success in like the ambassadors with more of the online space. Or not, and we're all struggling and figuring it out.
I could put
Well, it's
our
actually
website
interesting.
out there. This is
I was gonna say,
what I came up with. It's a chat now or meet later option, right? So they can use Unibuddy, which we have for all of our ambassadors, or they could set up a Zoom call, one-on-one appointment, or they can meet me, which is a different kind of conversation, I think, than the peer-to-peer. And some of our ambassadors are online students, so they could talk about those experiences. And then they have friends, so they could always refer to other people, but they're not as trained, right, as our ambassadors are. So that's what I got.
I guess a slight piggyback off of that to Sean's point about the online space. I know that one or two of our programs are considering launching into the more online space versus in person. And are you guys finding that more of your programs are having conversations about launching online space versus just doing in-person instruction? Because that's something that we've been hearing from not only of students, but also from administration that looking to break more into the online space for some of our programs. So I don't know if anyone else is finding that you're hearing coming down the pipeline that the expectation will be that you'll also be recruiting for more online programs or programs that have historically been in person or considering switching to virtual.
So I'll weigh in here with the online versus on ground modalities. They both have their positives and negatives. And one of the negatives that I think we're all trying to figure out, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm trying to figure out is when it comes to stealth applicants, people who just come out of the blue and hit you with an application. When I say that that's something that we're trying to consider, I'm talking 70% of my applications last cycle, 70% were stealth. Had no idea who they were. They were on our website, so that's important. They were, seeing our social media, that's important. And I think that just gets exasperated when I take a look, through the 143 programs. That gets exasperated when you get into online modalities. So in at least within the recruitment side of things for those modalities, with the online modality, making sure your SEO is set with the, really, really tuned in to what you're trying to promote, as well as, having a lot of things that point that way. So, for me, at least process wise, number one is get the website right, because that's our storefront. Number two is to get all the pointers pointed to that one site that we want to get them to. I know it seems simple, but at the same time, it's when you're in a very big organization like we all are, sometimes that's a challenge, but happy to hear anybody else's thoughts as well.
So I was just going to say, we currently don't have an ambassadors program, but we're building one, and we're doing it a little bit different based on what Daniel, even what you just talked about. When I went to Summit last year, and there was conversation about added value in your follow-up emails and your information sessions, everything. When my university got called out because our landing page after our inquiry form literally just said, "Thanks for your submission." We recognize that, there's a need to create some of that added value material. And that's what we're actually using our ambassadors for right now. Instead of using them to do tours or those types of things, we're actually developing a program where we have a school psychology and a school counseling program here at Millersville, and we have two students that are working together from those two programs to say, this is what the difference is, one versus one, so that when someone fills out the information online, that's one of the pieces they'll get, is that added value, and it's coming from the student's perspective. So like I said, we're just now kind of getting that started up and built out. But that's where we're finding probably the most value right now with our student ambassadors, is to utilize them in that way.
Two things. I want to go back to what Kate was saying about online. So majority of our programs have been online since COVID, and pretty successful for the most part. But if you guys are considering moving online or not, really consider the actual program, and no like blanketing all of our programs moving online, because some of our programs like education, teachers want online because of the flexibility, but other programs like our doctorate of physical therapy will never go online, because that's an important piece of what makes us unique when other programs decide to go online. And then in addition to what Daniel was saying about making sure your website and SEO and AI is all tied together, it's not just about that recruitment piece, it's the support that happens after they get here. So, help desk contact, is that 24/7 when you're going online? Is it asynchronous versus synchronous? And what does that look like? Are there other supports that are set in place from the institution outside of business hours to support online education? Are the advisors going to be flexible, and the program directors? It's like so much with that online learning, because you can make a program online, no problem, but is it really successful if the student support services isn't there for them either? Going back to Sean's point as well, because we're trying to build a online learning community. So what does orientation look like for them as well? So for us, even though our majority of our programs are online, we do online orientation, but in the fall, which is typically our largest class, we also do an in-person orientation, which there's no like standing room when, like, so people who want online, they still want to come in person at least once or twice in their program to meet their people that they've been talking to. And that's something that we found very successful.
Yeah, I would just add to Daniel, everyone's point that's kind of been combined. Like, the website is obviously a huge piece, and like it's something I've been pushing for. And just to Betsy's piece there, like there's a piece of graduate culture that needs to exist. And because more and more adults and students are becoming those stealth applicants, right? Like they are just going to your website and not wanting to talk to anyone, or social media, right? Like they want to see what exists and what doesn't. And like, regardless if they're ever going to step foot on campus, to your point, Betsy, or not, like they just want to know that there's this real culture of support, regardless of if it's just by phone or whatever. And so I think that's really important. And, really looking at that and like doing that deep dive, like there's certain websites you go to, you can't even tell there's graduate programs right at the homepage. And so like that is something that, we've kind of taken on into the online space and doing that. And Kate, we have some programs that they want to bring more in person back into it,
Interesting.
that will hurt the enrollment. So like there is elements to it that faculty need to realize, and this is not anything against faculty in this moment because we need them, but they're not always in touch with what the world actually wants. And just because your zip code might say Philadelphia or whatever area you're in, it doesn't mean 5 minutes down the road will actually only be 5 minutes down the road. And so that's a factor that they're not thinking of, and which is where the online space really comes in. But I think it's really being intentional with when you are doing online or parking, been there. So online has to be intentional, or to Betsy's point, when you're bringing them to campus, give them something they're not getting anywhere else. Like there has to be that piece to it, and that is also like kind of back to the in-person virtual events, like just to kind of highlight that, like we have a new VP of marketing, and she really made me step back and think, like, what is it they're getting out of that? Like, and what are we teaching them? Like, what is their, like, why should they do this? Not just because you're selling them a product. Like, what is it they're getting out of it? And it's really helping me to just think, like, leading with that information, right? Like, we all know why graduate school can be beneficial, or why our program is better than someone else's, or whatever it may be. But it's like we have that internal knowledge that they don't.
You know,
It's been interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
no, go ahead, Katie.
I was just a quick thing off of Sean, that it's been interesting to kind of see the faculty feedback, because I think some of them are excited to see programs potentially moving in the direction of virtual because it's offering more opportunities for students. And then I think there's some that are very much, this program has always been in person, it should remain that way. And so there's a very interesting kind of fine line balance that we've been seeing with that back and forth of how do we continue to progress moving forward with the rest of, the world, but then also at the same time, this is how it's always been. We've, provide instruction always in person. So it certainly has been an interesting balance.
So
Sorry.
as the resident faculty member on this call,
That's why I was trying to be nice, Dan.
that's why I was like this, Sean. So just a quick anecdote before I get into here what I'm going to say. So I've been in GEM for 14 years. The past 11 years have been just strictly a GEM administrator. Only the past 3 years have I been a faculty member that straddles administration and faculty. And I will say this, because I know previously it would upset me and stress me out and be like, why does my faculty not want to be engaged? How can they not want to help with recruitment? But here's the problem. It's not that faculty don't want to help. I found that most of the time is that they just don't know how to help or really understand what it is that we do as enrollment professionals. So I think having those conversations with faculty doesn't 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 only help you get their buy-in, but asking for their insights and advice goes a long way. So what I used to do before I was here at Drexel, I was at Temple. And what I would do is I would make it a priority to meet with my program chairs once at the beginning of the cycle and once at the end of the cycle. So I would do, how are we planning for this year? And then I would do a post-mortem at the end. How did we perform? What did we like? What didn't we like? What changes do we want for next cycle? Let's go over our marketing materials. Let's go over our website. Let's go over program improvements and enhancements that we could begin marketing to our students. How are we doing? What are faculty doing? And having those conversations immediately, in my mind, set up like, okay, here's my strategic marketing plan, because I can take all this information, rope it into a Stratcom plan, and roll out messaging once a month and have those different targeted emails. And I can do my analytics and see what are they clicking on, where are they going to, what do they have questions on, da 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 da. So it helps me to better advise my prospective students, but also I was able to see higher levels of faculty engagement because they just didn't know what they could do. But when they found out all these things, the way that they were engaged was a much more impactful and meaningful way that really helped boost one-on-one communication with prospective students throughout the whole pipeline. And that's what helped conversion rates from paid deposits to enrolled students, right? Making sure that they came and sat in class the first day. So faculty are daunted by recruitment because they just don't know how to do it or how they could be helpful.
to help with that, I'm not sure if other colleagues in the call are doing it, but we have like monthly check-ins or semesterly check-ins depending on the program, just so that we have that constant communication with our faculty members. And it depends on the program. Some programs we meet like once a semester because that's all we need. And some programs where there's a little bit more of a push to increase enrollment, we're meeting regularly with faculty so that we're engaged throughout. Now, I'm fortunate enough to say that many of the faculty that I work with are on board with, and they're passionate about helping grow their program. But that's one thing that we've done to work in collaboration with faculty to make sure that we're growing enrollment or maintaining consistency.
One of the issues that we've been seeing at Duquesne until just very recently has been the our international student population coming. That affects our online offerings. Can we do both an online and ground in on campus offering of a certain program? And that's recently been disrupted, of course, with the implementation of new policies. So, I mean, we used to get 30 to 40 visas from India every year. This year we got 3. So, just wondering what we're trying to make plans for that as well. But that's always been kind of a stopping point, I think, for the university. But it might be an opportunity for us as well. But just thinking out loud, I don't know if anybody else has problems like that, but we did.
Gonna say along those lines, is anyone either receiving feedback from students or having conversations across their campuses about whether it's with regard to international students or even just the whole component of grad loans and availability of those? Are you starting to hear from students, whether it's concerns or just conversations across campus with regard to both of those aspects?
Yes, we definitely have seen students asking about loans, and we just don't have the information for them. Added to that is the recent announcements of furloughs from Penn West. So I'm getting questions on what does that mean? Students are becoming better consumers. So they're knowing that if a school goes out of business, their degree can be in jeopardy. So we're given talking points to that. So there's a lot of concern out there. Students, I try to give them as much as possible up front without lying to them. I mean, I take this job very seriously. I take our reputation very seriously. So I try to give them as much info as I can. But yeah, we're definitely seeing those conversations.
Yeah, I think, Nikki, to your point, students are smarter nowadays. They're just being way more conscious, and grad loans in general. It's more so affecting probably everyone who has these programs can relate, but the doctoral level, like, our PsyD program is definitely being hit by this grad loan, you know what I mean? And kind of looking at that, and they just are concerned about funding, right? And so we have students, and, one of the other initiatives that our university has taken on that I also like kind of spearhead is like with our corporate partners, so working with industry companies and like how can we offer a tuition discount and partner and do that. And now it's not the savior, it's not the be all end all, but it's something. And it definitely seems to help at least entice people to still think, oh, this is worth it, or kind of doing that. But yeah, they're definitely smarter and worried, and just being that much more cautious even in applying, like not just accepting it, but like it's actually delaying them from applying, thinking like, do I waste my time, or you know what I mean? And kind of doing that. And so it's like kind of addressing that head on, and providing as much information as we can. Our financial aid office is great, but there's a lack of information, so they don't even know what to say at this point as well. But it is kind of scary.
That's one for us at Duquesne. The big hit with the one big beautiful bill has been the professional programs, 100%, and it's so law, medicine, and pharmacy, PharmD. That's a big hit from the grad plus to this new system, and that's what we're probably the most worried about is what other entities are out there that are going to start stepping up. Because I assume it's money to be made by big banks, and we have plenty of them down here in downtown Pittsburgh, and as you guys do all around. So, but who's who's gonna be the people or the entities that are going to step up to say, oh, we can do that too, and to supplement.
Also at very much higher interest rates, all
Yeah.
those private alternative loans.
And there's money to be made, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I think it's important just to kind of check in on how everyone's feeling. Like, despite everything happening in the world, like, how are you feeling in your position? It could be a, tough topic to address, but I just wanted to check in and see kind of what things are like for you personally, if you feel like sharing. I know here there's, always increased pressure to hit our numbers, and we're trying to triple our enrollment in the next 10 years with limited resources and everything else that's happening. So I also travel a lot. I'm on the road almost always. This is actually the first day I've had in the office in the month. As you all know, I travel. So yeah, feel free to share how you're feeling if you care to, or help each other out to get through these tough times.
I'm feeling cautiously optimistic in a way, even though that we have, I've been in higher ed for 20 years. There's always something that's going to affect us. There's always going to be a disruptor. It's just about how we can be creative to manipulate our way around that disruption, and maybe even join in on it. What I think one of the biggest disruptors that we have in front of us right now is AI. That is, and it's one that we don't really think of as being a disruptor, but it's changing who our customers are right in front of us. And I think it's time for us to really kind of start taking a look at that. And how are we going to communicate with these people in 5 years? It's going to be a whole lot different than what we're doing now. I don't know the answer either, but I'm just trying to figure this crap out as I go.
Well, I appreciate Dan's level of optimism. My perspective is I feel a little bit more unsettled. Just yes, there's always something. I don't know, it just feels like a little bit even more unsettled at this point. I hope I'm wrong. We have also been, informed that we need to increase our enrollment goal, which has been pretty standard for many, many years. And at this point, I'm talking specifically about the social work program, the MSW program. But people, don't want to go into huge amounts of debt to graduate with an MSW. So, we don't know. It's still very early in the process, and we'll have to wait and see. But there are a lot of factors weighing on any graduate student. So, only time will tell. So I appreciate your optimism, Dan. I'm going to hold on to that for today.
Call me anytime, Sheila.
Okay, thanks.
So I also appreciate Daniel's optimism, and I think what he said was very poignant, because right now there is a lot of disruption in our market space. We saw this the last time during COVID, and we had a large exodus of higher ed professionals go into private industry, right? But now we're seeing it more so on this quasi-political policy level, right? But to his point about being a disruptor, I think now is a good time for colleges and universities to look at being a disruptor. So one thing that I've been looking at and doing my research, I found that ironically, a lot of prospective graduate students may even be interested in these stackable certificates that you could have with a grad program. So if there are different things that you could add into a program where faculty can do to try to, entice them to enroll into a program by saying, hey, if you finish this program and take these set of courses, you could get this certificate as well that maybe helps you be a little bit more competitive in the job market if you're either going to be more so for those career changers and those career enhancers, right? So I think that, that is a way to really kind of put your footprint in the market, but then also looking at those career enhancers, that's a great opportunity to develop those strategic partnerships and pipelines to say, hey, is there a way we can maybe squeeze a little bit of a tuition discount for employees from XYZ company, as long as they can almost guarantee us a minimum enrollment of this many employees, right? To create maybe like an executive cohort or something like that, right? Which is something that we looked at doing when I was at a prior institution, right? And that was actually decently successful, right? So I just think that now is a good time for higher ed institutions to be part of that disruption in a positive way, because I think that it's a good way you could capitalize on increasing your enrollment goals and achieving them. Just my 2 cents.
I think it's times like these too that I also am very appreciative of groups like this, and getting the time in a crazy schedule to connect with colleagues that are going through the same thing. Because sometimes it feels like when you're out on the road or you're in your own kind of bubble, sometimes it can be like a little isolating and you kind of forget there's everybody else is in the same boat. So I think that I'm also grateful for times like these that we get to set aside and touch base and go, okay, everybody else, we're all kind of in this boat together. So I appreciate you all for taking the time this morning, but then also just sharing what you're going through, because it feels nice to be in good company. So.
Yeah, and of course, there's like many of us that aren't here right now, so I would also encourage you to check in on your colleagues at your institutions and see how they're doing. Offer up, PAGAP if you can, to get more involved. We are always happy to take on ambassadors to the program, as well as, we have NACAP elections coming up. You may have received an email for some people on the Zoom call here are running for positions, so I would encourage you to check out all the candidates. Our voting closes November 12th for that. You should have received an email. And any other thoughts or comments from the group before we
Just
close things out?
Vote for Chad. I do just want to thank everybody on the call today. This is my first coffee chat with y'all. Definitely won't be my last, but I just want to thank everybody for your being upfront and honest and sharing, as I tried to do as well. So that's extremely helpful. Thank you all.
So, well, good luck with the rest of recruitment season. Hopefully we'll get to see some of everyone's faces out on the road, but thank you again for taking time this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Everyone,
everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
you.